baby, listen to me speak, yeah. No matter what, just let it go.
Pop, persuadable. What's going on, boo-boos? Let's talk about Cowboy. We're going to get right into his adjustments, and then I'm going to bitch about this for the next 5 minutes. Cowboy's adjustment. So when Cowboy lassos a pallet, Cypher or Hunter, and lands on the ground, he will have a momentary speed bonus. It's not specified how much. Next thing. Cowboy now has to make sure the aiming bar is full before he can lasso a survivor in the balloon. If the aiming bar is not full, he will never be able to lasso the survivor. Sounds awful. Next thing, the Cowboy cannot lasso a survivor in the balloon if the Hunter has excitement. I agree with that one. Decrease the duration of the speed boost when Cowboy lassos a survivor in the balloon. Next, optimize the Cowboy's judgment system for his tap lasso skill and the short press skill to better fit the visual of it. Now, here's the rationale that the devs have provided. We have noticed that the current Cowboy experience is pretty extreme. His own kiting ability is weak, but when the Hunter is chasing other survivors in the face of the Cowboy's support and skills, Hunters are unable to counter him. Therefore, we have increased his kiting ability so that when he lassos anything besides other survivors, he will have a speed boost while at the same time taking away the instant lasso to give Hunters some time to react and increase the effect of excitement. This will give both sides a fighting chance and increase the attendance rates of the Cowboy. So, I disagree with this character adjustment. I think that the devs are messing up here. Me and the devs, or the devs and I rather, we usually see eye to eye on a lot of things. I mean, I've told you guys certain characters need to be buffed, and next thing you know, it happens. You know, for the most part, we're on the same level in regards to where we see balance and character. I think they got this one wrong, really, really wrong. This is really bad, and I'm not going to talk about whether Cowboy is going to be stronger or weaker after this overall, right? Because there is an overall adjustment to this that includes a kite and buff, and so we're going to get to that. Regardless of whether this makes him stronger or weaker overall as a character, one thing that it is doing is it's reducing his harassing ability. And that is why Cowboy mains are pissed off. Regardless of whether this is a balanced adjustment or not, a whole separate argument that we'll get into later, you're changing the character's composition slightly. You're making him more of a kiter. You're reducing the harassing ability. I have never met a Cowboy player ever in the existence of this game ever that said, I'm going to play Cowboy because I want to kite well. He's a harasser. That's what he is. So then the devs are saying, all right, there's a problem with his lasso. A lot of Hunters, they can't counter it. Now, I get a lot of shit from the community because I talk about this thing called data and numbers, which is literally everything in life in regards to engineering and science and innovation. And I talk about data and numbers and science all the time, even with a video game, because that is what's going to keep a game balanced, right? Where's the data? What does the numbers suggest? Because too many people have anecdotal experiences, and if we were to balance a game based on your personal stories and not the objective data, the balance would be off the mark. Why did I just say that? Because as of now, the devs have not released any data suggesting that Cowboy is an actual problem. When you look at the leaderboards, you're not seeing a discrepancy with Cowboy mains and others. When you look, what the devs have historically said that this is a Hunter-sided game and that survivors fail rescues more and more, and that's why you see Bloody Queen nerf, you saw the Dream Witch nerf, you've seen buffs with all the survivors, you've seen persona adjustments so survivors can throw pallets down quicker on the west wing, and they've done all of those changes because there was a discrepancy between survivor win rates and Hunter win rates, and they've even said that Hunters win more on average than survivors in every server and every tier, for the most part. So then where is the data that suggests that Cowboy is this big issue? We don't see him in tournament gameplay, really. We see him a little bit in NAEU, but none of those teams ended up winning the overall tournament. And so we don't see him in high-tier Chinese tournament gameplay either. You see him once in a blue moon, perhaps in Southeast Asia. So I'm not saying that that has anything to do with Legendary Rank Mode, but I'm just simply saying that Hunters are still winning more. We don't see this character being abused in top tournament gameplay. And even in legendary rank, hunters are still finding ways to counter them. And they're still winning more than survivors on average. And most of them are still banning characters other than Cowboy. So it's when I talk about the data, I'm talking about individual variables where you bring them all together and you're saying, where is the problem? There's no data that says there's problem with Cowboy. Think about it from a common sense perspective. If Cowboy was this big of an issue, we would see him being rampantly abused in tournament gameplay. If I tell you that I'll give your team $20,000 to win a tournament, and Cowboy was this broken, you're going to tell me you're not going to use him? Why? Historically, characters who are really overpowered and broken, we see them exploited in tournament gameplay. We saw Priestess after Call of Abyss 2 being used from 5% in the regionals all the way to 25% in the KOA 2 finals. We've seen Mechanic be rampantly abused since Season 1, right? We don't see it with Cowboy. So, with all of that being said, let's pretend that there is an issue. Let's pretend, fuck everything I just said, right? Oh, data this, data that, right? From every measurable standpoint, there's no issue. But say, okay, hey, sometimes the data doesn't tell you the full narrative. There's still an issue with them, okay? All right, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm actually a reasonable guy. So I'll say, okay, maybe Cowboy does have an issue here. Allow excitement and that's it, right? I agree with the excitement aspect. You should be able to counter a lasso with excitement, just like you can with a flare gun and just like you can with a football. But to reduce the speed and then on top of that, remove one-tap lassos is just too much. It's too. Now you're going to tell somebody that they have to charge their lasso 2 seconds? That's like telling a coordinator she needs to cock her gun before she can, before she can shoot it. That's like telling a forward that he needs to pump his football up before he can run with it. This is going to really reduce his harassing ability. I understand that they're buffing his chitin, but that is not the overall problem with Cowboy. The devs have made it very clear that the biggest problem with Cowboy is that his harassing is too much, despite us not being able to objectively see it anywhere. So even if we give you the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, I actually see a lot of Cowboy mains who say, yeah, add excitement. Allow excitement to counter one of my lassos. That's a thing. But instead, they're going to nerf this lasso 3 times. It's too much too soon. Add the excitement and then see where that goes to this problem that none of us can measure or see with any of the data. And again, there's data that they have that I don't have access to. I genuinely believe that there may be an issue, but I don't believe that it's on this catastrophic level where you need to completely remove the one-tap lasso. I don't believe that it's on a level where you have to reduce the speed boost that you get when you lasso somebody off of the balloons. I just don't think that it's there. So the other thing too, in regards to the balance of the Cowboy, is that when the devs say that he has a weak chitin ability, well, that was what balanced him. It forced a lot of Cowboy users to go left to right. A lot of them would not build Tide Turner. So if they failed their harassment, then they had to make a decision. Do I go and decode now, or do I actually go and rescue? But if I do, I don't have Tide Turner. So the character was actually, they needed, by the way, left to right builds, because you go against these top hunters as a Cowboy, you really need those boosts in order to stay alive. Especially against Dream Witch and Bloody Queen. So how about we talk about whether the character overall is going to be stronger or weaker? The answer is I don't know. I understand that they're buffing his chitin. And that's where a lot of the community, you guys aren't seeing eye to eye. Because there's people who are looking at this argument as to whether Cowboy overall is going to be stronger or weaker with this buff. And then you have other people who are only looking at the harassing component. And you're both technically correct. I'm not necessarily saying that this is going to make Cowboy technically weaker in the sense overall, because now his chitin is supposedly getting buffed, right? And that's even if it's a good one. We don't know. The amounts have been unspecified what the boost is when you lasso a pallet. But I don't really think people care about whether he's going to be overall stronger or not. It's the fact that he is he's primarily a harassing character, and you're taking that harassment away from him by 3 different ways. And I think that's too much too soon to a problem that we haven't even objectively been able to see in 3 different aspects of measurements that are available to us. Do I think he might be stronger with this chitin? For sure, it could happen. I don't know. We have to see what boost he gets when he lassos a pallet. But imagine it like it's like this. Imagine if you take Mind's Eye, you remove her 130% decoding, and you only give her 100% decoding. So she decodes like a thief. But you say she's going to have one of the best stuns in the game now. It doesn't matter whether she's going to be balanced or not. It's the fact that you have now made a decoding character into a kiting character. So you're going to have two arguments. I'm just making a theoretical argument, guys. I'm making a theoretical argument. You'll have one group over here arguing about whether she's stronger or weaker now, and then you have another group who's more concerned about how she's going from decoder to kiter, and that's the problem with this Cowboy adjustment, is that it doesn't matter whether Cowboy theoretically is stronger or weaker. It's the fact that you're taking that harassment away from him, even though most hunters can counter it. Geisha might not be able to, but I mean the majority of the hunters have abilities where they can catch up to Cowboy and hit him. I think what they should have done is added excitement, and that's it. All of this other stuff they didn't need to do, and I'd be very surprised if this actually survives the test server. Tell me your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching.